culture in more recent history has been steadily moving away from the traditions of old, and there's some really good reasons for that, because as Tim Minchin will remind us in one of his classic Christmas songs, that just because an idea is old doesn't mean it's a good one, and but the opposite is also true. Just because an idea is old doesn't mean it's a bad one, and some of the ideas in our traditions have been tried and found valuable over great lengths of time. And so Wesley College, of course, is a place that is steeped in traditions, and people at Wesley would be the first to say not all of them have been wonderful all the time, but a lot of them are really quite valuable, and so we hang on to them, and there is a constant process of review with regard to what we consider to be the traditions worth fostering and holding on to, and what are the things that we consider to be not helping or serving the community in the most helpful of ways. One of the issues that happens when we have a holus bolus run away from the traditions of the past is that we uproot ourselves from the main stories that give life meaning. And there's been a bit of an agenda to do that in the name of freedom. So if we can be liberated from these stories that have constrained certain behaviours and promoted certain other behaviours, if we find liberty from those stories, there are more options for us. And there'd be some truth to that, of course. But one of the unspoken, or I think unexplored downsides of that is that we also uproot ourselves from the meaning of life. And the newer stories are not that well equipped to give us a sustainable sense of meaning. In fact, they're mostly about individual autonomy, separating ourselves off from any constraint or any lasting connection with anything that might slow us down in our freedom to do whatever the hell we want to do. Now, unfortunately, this is not a good recipe for society. It's not a good recipe for a fulfilling life. It's not a good recipe for a sustainable way of doing things. And that's where tradition in culture can really serve us quite well. And I think we're foolish to disregard that and not pay attention to the life nurturing parts of our tradition. In fact, a very strong argument has been made, a guy named Patrick Deneen, who talks about philosophical liberalism and how it's not delivered what we'd hoped. He talks about the fact that we can only really imagine the sorts of freedoms that we are now taking for granted and pushing to the extreme because of the rich cultural heritage and commonwealth that our older traditions have fostered for us. So without those traditions having been there and having done their work over generations, which have enabled us to develop a sense not just of material wealth, but much more importantly, a wealth of shared trust, a wealth of shared virtues, a sense of what is good and healthy for a society. Without those things being firmly in place and well established in our shared culture, we couldn't even imagine the kinds of freedoms that we now take for granted, let alone the ones that we are now wanting to push into. So we need to be careful, I think, as we think about the stories that hold us and form us. Where is life generated and what is just feeding off the fat of something else? So I would encourage you, while you're thinking about your various studies and equipping yourself for the life that's ahead of you at college, to think about those stories that sustain you, give you a sense of meaning, equip you with a sense of purpose, and give you hope and direction in life. I think the gospel story is an incredibly powerful story in that regard, and even though people these days are quick to poo-poo the kind of miraculous tales that are held within there, the truths that those stories hold and the way they equip us to engage life and the various challenges that we face has been established over 2,000 years. It's given rise to such community wealth, cultural wealth, societal wealth. And again, I'm not talking simply about material wealth, I'm talking about the kind of wealth that really helps us be the best human beings that we can be. So, I am going to be starting a Bible study. It's been inspired by one of the students at Wesley who said, it'd be good to have a Bible study, and I said, I agree, that'd be good, let's do that. And it's going to be on Thursday afternoons, just after lunch, around about 1 o'clock, maybe, 1 o'clock, that's a good time. We'll do 1 o'clock. And be open to being guided as to the interests of the people that come along, but we will look at the stories that sustain us and are good for our culture, and a particular interest on the biblical stories and the meanings that we can find in them that help us find our way through life. I love doing that sort of stuff, but I'm a theological nerd, that's why I became a rev and a chaplain and all that sort of stuff. But if you're interested in those things, come and join us Thursday afternoons at Wesley, 1 o'clock in the Reg Walker room, and we'll have some conversation, some pastoral conversation as well, see what we can discover together. God bless, looking forward to seeing you back at the college. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just going to be excited. It's nice to be with people again. It's been so weird. See you soon.